Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Uh, this is Apparition. Before I start my video, I would just like to point your direction to my fair use notice. Most of the time, I simply reference materials or articles or videos that I see. I don't actually put it, I try not to put those things into my videos, but I reference them to make an argument. I also provide general legal advice for educational purposes. So, so I have a disclaimer for that as well, just so that people know that I'm not intending to give a specific person legal advice. And any materials or any articles that I mention in the video will be linked in the video description below. Thank you. Collectivism and the individual man. Ideally, what women want is for some male provider, what they label betas, to provide for them, i.e., be a good family man. Whilst they go out and spread their legs for other men who will impregnate them with quote-unquote superior DNA. For sexual dimorphic species, including humans, this is the underlying female programming. Alpha males are mainly preoccupied maintaining their alpha male status by self-grooming, working out, and basically living stress-free lives. Family men generally live very, very stressful lives, mainly because they have to listen to their wives bitch and complain all the time. In my opinion, stress is the key determinant of being alpha or beta, because the stress-producing hormone cortisol destroys testosterone. Cortisol also causes men to retain fat around their gut. Before I met my ex-wife, I lifted weights, worked as a personal trainer, and fucked lots of women. I met my ex through a friend of hers who I was also fucking at the same time. Once my ex locked me down with the birth of our first child, my new lifestyle changed me into beta mode. I had no time to go to the gym or de-stress. I spent my days working my ass off and my nights taking care of the kids or making odd repairs around the house. And worst of all, and wait for it, listen to my ex bitch and complain about how much our life sucked. Nevertheless, we had a roof over our heads. She would always complain about shit we didn't have, and once we got that thing, she would find something else to complain about. I think she would literally look for things to complain about. The worst part was she would constantly accuse me of cheating. She would use it as an excuse to guilt me into going outside, into not going outside without her. Yet she would justify going out with her girlfriends to party. In the end, I stopped hanging out with my guy friends and even my family. I was so stressed and depressed. Finally, I discovered MGTOW and was inspired to stop being a sulking little bitch and be a man again. Like my ex, women in society take and take without offering any real benefit. And the worst part is boys are being programmed to be providers for girls and women. What are some of the basic social conventions? The guys pay on dates, women hold the door. In a tragedy, it is women and children first. Men never get recognition for their sacrifices. What they do get is a slap in the face. Relationships. In nature, all things use each other. Men use women to birth and rear children. Men use women to pass on their DNA to the next generation. There are three types of symbiotic relationships. Mutualism, which is the Egyptian plover and the crocodile. So we see that in nature, where the bird will eat food out of the crocodile, and it serves both parties. Commensalism is the remora fish, which attaches itself to a shark and hitches a ride, essentially. So in that situation, one party benefits and the other one does not get, is not affected by the other's benefit. And then you have parasitism, and a good example of this is a deer tick, where the tick attaches onto, for example, a dog, and then the dog will, basically be a host to a colony of ticks. Parasites gain benefit from a host while damaging their host. And women who are a product of third wave feminism are social parasites. In the postmodern era where the legal system favors women more than men, they know that they can behave in a predatory way without consequence. Thus, they take and take without recognition of the provider. Ever notice when you do a favor for a woman, she is overly thankful until she has no use for you anymore. This is why nice guys always get screwed over, because they do nice things for women with the expectation they'll get some nookie, and in the future, and more often than not, they don't get anything. Alpha males are perceived as assholes not because they are actually nasty people. Alpha males refuse to follow the traditional convention of doing things for women for free. Feminists know how dangerous it can be for them if this idea catches on, so they shame such behavior by saying stupid things like, "Oh, he didn't pay, what a douche." Statistically, collectivism and social welfare programs benefit women more than men because women depend on public services more than men. Women are overwhelmingly favored in child custody cases in the United States, where women win 70 to 90% of child custody cases. Women are often beneficiaries of programs geared towards childcare like daycare subsidy, child tax benefit programs, and child support orders. Women also indirectly benefit from other government programs like affirmative action, anti-discrimination laws, and government minimum hiring quotas. State-funded government institutions like universities, crown corporations, and FHLMC are often bound by policies to hire a minimum number of women, regardless of the qualifications. Middle-class single working men are literally the mules of society because they inevitably end up paying more taxes than any other member of society. The short end of it is that feminists cannot survive without collectivism because primarily they need men to fund public programs. Many men have gotten caught up in this new third wave feminist agenda without even realizing it. To work for the government is to be dependent on government. To collect welfare is to depend on government. To pay taxes is to support the collectivist feminist agenda. So what is the MGTOW reaction? Smart, conscious men recognize that the current third wave feminist agenda is antithetical to the equal treatment of men and women. Feminists committed to establishing institutions meant to funnel wealth away from men under the guise that men have had an unfair advantage for many years. Thus, there needs to be a quote-unquote correction. See my video entitled Playing Victim, How Feminists Win Support for Unfair Policy. The net effect of feminist equity policy is institutional slavery for men. It is a system where the majority of money earned by men inevitably gets reappropriated to women. Upon realizing this, many men become very angry, hence the phenomenon known as the red pill rage, which I believe was coined by Sandman. However, the most appropriate response might be, and I might add as well that the most dangerous to neo-feminist agenda is pacifism. You see, simply stopping to participate in society the normal way, as feminist fuel beings, we seek to exact our frustration on the object of injustice. However, MGTOW should realize that traditional male aggression is what feminists have used against us to justify unfair policies for decades. By simply ignoring women, we take the wind out of their sails. By not being significant wage earners, we deprive public institutions of much-needed tax revenue required to keep them running. Look at the kind of heat MRAs receive from feminists, and all MRAs do is simply speak about injustices. Many men could not be bothered with the sexist harassment, but the beauty of MGTOW is that it involves very, very little effort, and you can be MGTOW anonymously. The economics of MGTOW will have a very, very significant impact against state-sponsored feminist institutions. This does not necessarily mean men cannot enjoy a wealthy lifestyle, nor does it mean men should stop dating beautiful women. On the contrary, MGTOW's lifestyle actually increases the likelihood that you will be able to date beautiful women, no strings attached. You see, feminists and white knights accuse MGTOWs of being closeted homosexuals. This accusation could not be further from the truth. MGTOWs are about risk management. The movement is about reducing the risk of unsustainable alimony and child support payments. It is also about avoiding false rape allegations. And it is also about avoiding false sexual harassment allegations in the workplace. Minimalism and conspicuous consumption. I'll speak in more detail about MGTOW lifestyle in the video entitled Becoming Self-Sufficient and Independent, but here's a sneak peek. Beta male providers, low confidence males seeking female approval will do what? They will handicap themselves. You see, men inherently spend less than women, and men only consume more if it's for the purpose of attracting a female. This phenomenon is known as the handicap principle, a phrase that was coined by the biologist Amit Zahavi, who observed that certain males of various animal species expend more energy to produce features significantly and specifically and exclusively for the purpose of attracting a mate. For example, the male peacock, whose colorful plumage serves no functional purpose, expends extra resources to develop a heavy, colorful train simply to attract a mate. The rationale is that the male can afford to waste energy on such elaborate displays, hence he is wealthy and can contribute to female and her babies. This strategy works because females are inherently hypergamous, even in nature. In humans, a man might purchase luxury items like a $30,000 Rolex to indicate provider status to women. In humans, this type of consumption was first characterized by the University of Chicago professor Thorstein Veblen. He called it conspicuous consumption, where a man can do with 2 or 3 pairs of shoes, a woman absolutely needs 30 to 40 pairs of pumps, even if she's poor. This is true conspicuous consumption. It is a kind of consumption that will keep women poor. So, unlike consuming goods for sustenance, conspicuous consumption is meant to indicate status as privileged. Sahavi's principle can be hacked by MGTOW for MGTOW's advantage. Why would a man sink $100,000 or $200,000 into a depreciating asset like a Lamborghini? A MGTOW would rent one. Instead of purchasing a tailored suit in New York, a MGTOW would purchase 8 suits of commensurate quality from a Thai tailor, plus vacation in Thailand, and rent a few sluts for $50 US a night. This is what I mean by rearranging your financing and thinking and spending smart. Never shit where you eat. This policy will help you to avoid false allegations and clingy women. Ultimately, the goal of women is to extract resources. So the main goal of a MGTOW is to, in the dating scene, is to keep these women away from your money. Hardworking, work hard in one city and date in another. Never allow a woman to see where you live, to know how you make your money, and to know how much assets you have. Instead, show them a facade of wealth and status. You see, you're not going to keep them anyway, so your fleeting existence will keep them intrigued. Even if they are conservative, they'll usually give up they'll usually stay interested for worry that they'll lose a good catch. When you dump them, just move on to another city. If you never shit where you eat, then you will never have to worry about a crazy scorned bitch trashing your house, your car, or embarrassing you at work. Women use men for money, connections, and companionship, sex, and children. They place men into categories. I know this because I've had female friends who have confessed this to me. So as MGTOW, you can be the one who women slot into the sex category and only the sex category because you don't fit anywhere else. See the video entitled Becoming Self-Sufficient and Independent for more tips on how to be MGTOW.